Hello and welcome to EcoElsa. Sorry I've been missing for a while here, guys. I've had a lot of big changes going on in my life, as you can see from my surroundings here, but I'm back and I'm excited to be making more videos. On today's video, we'll be going over the factors to keep in mind when picking a spot to be your outdoor classroom, as well as kind of a big announcement, I think. So, coming right up. Now let's get to the big announcement first, because I'm not one to beat around the bush, and I don't want to leave you guys hanging on to the very end for this, because it really isn't that big of a deal for you. It is more so for me. The big announcement is this. As some of you may know, I've been working and living in Northern Illinois, and recently I accepted a job offer for a permanent position back home in Minnesota. So, ta-da! Here I am back in my home state, Minnesota, the Great White North. Lots of snow constantly. It doesn't seem like winter's gonna end here. But I'm excited to be starting my new job, as well as very grateful that they've allowed me to continue doing EcoElsa on the side. Just keep in mind that the views expressed in these videos are my views and not the views of the organization that I work for. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get to today's topic. On today's video, we'll be going over the 4 factors to keep in mind for picking a spot or a home base when teaching outdoors. Factor number 1. The very first factor to keep in mind when teaching outdoors is the walking distance or the walking time to your outdoor location. At the very most, you should not be spending more than a 5 to 10 minute walk to get to this location from the school. Now, keeping this in mind, if the good outdoor classroom spots are farther away, or you already have to walk farther just to get into the woods or the outdoor space that you have, then make sure you're accounting for that when you're planning your outdoor class. If you have to spend 15 to 20 minutes walking, either plan to have a longer class so that you have enough time to get to your outdoor location to do your activities, or you make it a walk and talk class where you do activities on the way, you get to your spot, you do an activity, and then you do activities on your way back to the school. Factor number 2, the variety of the site. Now when I'm talking about the variety of a site, I'm saying that the spot you picked is very close to a lot of different habitats or just areas that offer different things. When you're picking a good spot outdoors, it's going to be a spot that's going to have at least 2 to 3 different habitats within 5-minute walking distance. This is ideal. If you don't have different habitats, at least it has a variety to the use of the space. Maybe there's a section of the woods that's a little bit more brushy, and a section that's a little bit more open, a section with lots of piles of sticks, and maybe happens to be a pond as well. That would be a good variety to a site too, even if it only is a pond and a wooded forest. As you can see behind me, there is a lake here. Maybe you can see, it's frozen. But if you look across the lake, there's a bunch of trees and hills, and if you were to turn the camera around, you'd see the exact same thing behind the camera. There's also over here to my right a little wetland area and some little streams, which makes this a good location for me to be filming with you, because it'll offer me a lot of opportunities throughout the summer and the rest of the year to do different kinds of videos and not have to walk very far from my home base. Factor number 3, hazards. Now when we're talking about hazards, these could be anything from something dangerous that you don't want to have super close to your students in your outdoor spot to something that might just be a little annoying and frustrating when it comes to teaching. Now I did mention this wonderful, beautiful lake behind me. Now if I was to plop a whole group of first graders right here and do class, this might not be the best location because I couldn't turn my back on them for 1 minute without someone being too close to the lake or in the lake. So a lake or any kind of water body could be a hazard that you don't want immediately next to you in your vicinity. That's why I say about a 5-minute walk. A good rule of thumb is you should barely be able to see the hazard from where the home base spot is, or it should be 100 yards or so. It should be far enough away that your students couldn't reach it in a mad dash when you aren't looking. You'd be able to catch them in time, hopefully. Other hazards, though, can include things like roads. You're not going to want to put your class space directly next to a road because a road is a dangerous hazard as well as an annoying hazard. If you're having to constantly try and talk over the noise of cars to your students, they're going to get distracted and you're going to get annoyed, and it's just not going to be a good situation. But another factor that comes in with that is people. Now, I'm on the edge of a very busy trail right now because, busy trail. It's not busy right now. but I'm on the edge of a trail here, and come certain times of the year, this will be a very busy location, which can be very disruptive to my class and very frustrating for me teaching, but also could have its own hazard as stranger danger. So I might want to be a little bit farther off this trail if I was teaching a class. The last hazard to kind of keep in mind, general one, is trees. Now, if we were to look up and see big hanging branches off of the trees that are above me, those are sometimes called widowmakers. We've talked about these before if you've seen my earlier videos. I'm not going to want to plant my class right underneath a tree with a branch that's barely hanging on by a thread or just resting in the tree itself, because it might fall down and squash me and my students, which we don't want to have happen. So these are some just hazards to keep in mind. Depending on the habitat you pick, your hazards might be different. It might be cliffs, it might be slippery hills, or you might even be a forest that's so thick that you can't see the students if they walk too far from you, and maybe you want a little bit more open spot so you can at least keep your eye on them a little bit easier when they're exploring. Factor number 4, our final factor, and this is going to be the actual location itself. Now, when picking a good home-based spot for your outdoor classroom, now that we've gotten the big picture things in, we're going to get kind of nitty-gritty here. The spot itself should have somewhat comfortable seating arrangement, whether it's benches, stumps, fallen logs, or even just some soft ground with some short grass. Whatever it may be, you want it to be comfortable, because this is going to be kind of your spot to gather the students and have discussions, or maybe to talk to them a little bit in lecture or to hand out materials. You're going to be here a little bit, and so if it's an uncomfortable seating arrangement for you or the students, then it's going to be a little bit hard to focus on teaching or learning in the student's case. And speaking of the student's focus, a couple things to keep in mind for decreasing the level of distraction opportunities for your students. Things like rocks, sticks, acorns, things that the kids are going to pick up and play with, they can make it easier for your students to be distracted and not pay attention to you while you're teaching. So if you can pick a home-based spot that minimizes these things, it'll be a little bit easier to try and keep the students' attention. However, students, as you may know, are going to get distracted by anything and everything if they're going to get bored. So we've gone over these before. Outdoor classroom management is a huge factor in keeping it a fun class, keeping the students engaged and whatnot. And a couple of tips for your outdoor class space itself that will help a lot more than even trying to make sure there's no acorns or no sticks. I mean, we're in the forest, for Pete's sake. What you can do to minimize students' distractions in your outdoor class space even further than minimizing sticks and acorns and rocks is making sure your outdoor class space is comfortable, as we talked about, but also that you're spending a small focused amount of time in it, that you're not staying in there for long periods of time so the students are getting distracted by other things, and also keeping them engaged and interacting with your outdoor class discussions and lectures. Try and include them as much as possible while minimizing the amount of time in that space and moving on to the next activity. Save the discussions for in the classroom where you have a little bit better control over the distractions that are around your students. I really shouldn't encourage the chickadees, but it's kind of fun. It was the first bird I learned how to mimic its call. Speaking of distractions, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hike around a little bit and take some clips to show you some really good spots that are ideal for an outdoor class space. That way you can visually see what it is I'm talking about that would make a good spot. So this would be a great example of a good outdoor classroom home base. We have a nice comfortable log here to sit on. It doesn't have a bunch of dirt and moss on it, things that your kids might get squeamish about, but hopefully not. I mean, I'm sitting on the snow right now, my butt's getting a little cold and wet, but it's okay. So as you can see, we got woods and hill, and then it gets a little bit more open. Very open. Been doing some restoration work. As you can see, farther from the lake now. And then over here, we got some boardwalks, a stream, and a little bit of marshy area to use. So there's a lot of variety to offer in this site, as well as a good meeting spot. The only thing that I would change if I could is I'm about 20 feet from the trail. So this could be a pretty easy spot to get distracted if there are a lot of other people or students in classes using that trail to get around. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. If you liked this video, please comment below or tweet me at ElsaLatecki and tell me what your favorite outdoor class space is. Maybe even send me some photos. I'd love to see it and hear from you, as well as share with you some of my favorite outdoor class spaces. If you liked this video, please click the subscribe button below and make sure to ring that little bell button as well. That way you can be notified the second my videos are up on YouTube to help you continue to take your students and your kids outdoors. As always, I hope you all have an amazing week. You be safe, learn lots, have fun, and get your kids outdoors. Bye!